Hello, my name is Sandy, and I am a Metrolinx People Leader who has just finished the job description process for a new role on my team. Job description writing is a people leader responsibility here at Metrolinx. So I would like to share with you some of the tips and tricks that I learned and found helpful when I went through the process of creating a job description, or for short, a JD. You can use the playback buttons below to increase or decrease speech speed. Now let's get started. I know you must be excited to get started and begin crafting your job description. However, before you begin writing, I recommend you first connect with your HR business partner for guidance to see if creating a JD is the correct approach. Your HR business partner, or HRBP for short, will partner with you and can help identify the best approach for your situation. Your HRBP will advise if a new JD is required and guide you through the overall process, and depending on your requirements, you may be provided a JD template tool that can assist with drafting your JD. This quick learning module will give you tips and tricks to help you craft or revise a job description. Learning objectives. In this module, I will share with you what is a job description and what is it used for. Quick tips and tricks for writing a JD. Examples of what a good JD statement looks like. The JD writing process itself. What your HRBP will review with you after you submit your JD. Job description basics. What is a job description? Each organization will have a different job description template based on the organization's requirements. Regardless of the organization, a well-crafted JD should incorporate the basics. A comprehensive and descriptive summary and record of key duties required to be performed for a position. Job descriptions are mainly used for job evaluation and are also used for job postings, labor relations, and performance management, to name a few. Because a JD has so many uses for so many programs and projects, it's imperative to get the position captured correctly in the JD. Job descriptions should be written with easily understood language so that all the readers can grasp the basics of a role. Be sure to use language that is easily understood by all audiences. Appreciating there are some technical roles, you should strive to write a JD in clear and concise, easy to understand language. JD writing is an iterative process. It's not uncommon to go through several drafts before you get to the final version. Much like writing a short story, it's natural to go through a few drafts as you get closer and closer to a final version. Your leader, colleagues, and HRBP may all provide feedback that strengthen the JD. It's perfectly natural to go through a few draft versions of your JD before you reach the final version. A job description and job posting are not the same. Job postings are a summary of the job used to attract a specific caliber of talent, whereas the job description is the larger document that contains the full scope of the job. You can think of a job posting as a movie trailer giving people a glimpse of a job, and the job description as the full movie. Tips of job description writing, the do's. Here are several tips that will help you develop a strong and robust job description. Please note, not every statement must follow all of these tips, but keep them in mind when you draft your JD. Job descriptions should represent the current state or tasks of the job. The JD should represent the position and the work that is to be done now. Avoid writing to a future state that has not occurred yet. Although the team may be working to improve processes and build a future state, you should reflect the current work to be done now. A job description can be revised in the future if updates are required to better reflect your job duties. Each statement should start with a verb. Verbs help describe and convey the primary action being taken. Ensure the verb used is reflective of the work to be done. For example, if a position is responsible to create a new inventory management system, you should use a robust verb such as develops or implements, rather than coordinates or facilitates. Outline the benefit provided by the task through outcome-focused statements. We want to speak to the intended benefits provided by each task, which we can achieve by highlighting the expected outcome. That is to say, the role is spending a lot of time doing a certain activity. What is the result? And how does that provide a benefit to the organization? Speaking to the benefits and outcomes helps all readers understand the expectations of the role. This helps incumbents know what they are responsible for producing and what is needed to produce that work. For example, if a position is responsible for cleaning trains, we can infer the benefit in this example and can craft a more robust statement by stating responsible for cleaning trains to ensure Metrolinx customers have a positive customer experience in a clean environment. But what if we had a more complex example? For example, if our position drafts and develops analytical data analysis reports via standard deviation documentation and common size Monte Carlo analysis. What does that mean, and why is the position doing that? I suggest a change to the statement to say, drafts and develops analytical data analysis reports using various advanced statistical methods to be used as a basis by SMT to make decisions regarding property acquisitions. This example clearly outlines the benefit of the task in a way that readers can easily understand the benefit provided. Use simple language for technical skills. When writing your job description, try to avoid language that is too technical. Language needs to be made reader-friendly and avoids technical jargon. Write the JD in a manner that is easily understood by any reader using clear and precise statements. We want our JD to be written so that someone without a technical background can understand the position with relative ease. In other words, we may recommend not calling something Monte Carlo analysis, as many people may not understand what it is. Use gender-neutral language. When writing the job descriptions, avoid using pronouns, simply use the position or just a verb if needed. Tips of JD writing. The don'ts. I made these mistakes when crafting my job description. You can learn from me by avoiding these points. Job descriptions should not be incumbent-specific. Job descriptions should always strive to separate the role from any specific incumbent. Especially avoid creating a role for a specific incumbent. The risks of creating a role for a person is that should the person leave, it may not easily be filled again for lack of candidates with exact matching or unique combination of qualifications. We always recommend positions be developed based on the work to be done and not the work a person is capable of. Job descriptions should not use acronyms without first spelling them out. Teams may use many different acronyms to describe various programs or projects. However, not everyone may know what they mean. We want to ensure that when acronyms are used, the first instance is spelled out. Avoid underwriting or overwriting. If the role is a simple and straightforward entry-level role, we should avoid adding fluff to make the JD sound more impactful than it truly is. Conversely, if the role has a large portfolio, it's recommended writing the JD with enough detail to match the level of accountability. For example, fully responsible for the strategic implementation of standardized sanitation and sterilization methods via chemical solvent-based technology to ensure high-level customer satisfaction with regards to Metrolinx facility cleanliness standards as set for in the Metrolinx Act and Metrolinx Customer Charter et al. In other words, the statement relates to cleaning. On the other end, if a director JD says it's accountable for management of all Metrolinx rail stock, you should add in more detail to reflect the scope and scale of the responsibility. Tips of JD writing. The good. Samples of strong statements. Now that we have given you tips on the do's and don'ts of JD writing, here are some examples of well-crafted statements following the tips outlined earlier. These statements are all written as outcome-focused statements with clear and precise language. Although we do not state which job they came from, the statements are written in a way that we can easily understand the duty and expected result. Feel free to pause the video so you can read the statements. Tips of JD writing. The bad samples of incomplete statements. It is also helpful to show some examples of statements that are not as strong. The following statements are a good shell for a strong JD, but require some additional refinement to flesh out the duties and expected outcomes. Feel free to pause the video so you can read the statements. Module 1 Conclusion. This brings us to the conclusion of Module 1. In this module, you have learned what is a JD, the do's and don'ts, and several examples of what are good statements and incomplete statements. I hope you found it helpful. In the next module, I will talk about the JD writing process in greater detail. Module 2. Introduction and Recap. Hello and welcome back to Job Description Writing 101. In our last module, you learned about job description basics, the do's, the don'ts, and went over some examples of strong job descriptions. Learning objectives. In this session, you will learn the following. Job description sections. Job description writing process. Job description self-quality review. Your HRB piece role in the job description process. Job description sections. Now that you have learned some tips and best practices for writing a JD, you are better equipped to start drafting the job description. However, before you begin, I will quickly go over the main sections of a JD for a better understanding of what goes where. Note, this module will focus on non-union job descriptions. Let's start with Section 1. Demographics. The demographics section of the JD contains important details like the title, business unit and reporting relationship, and version dates. It will also include things like job code and job group, which are assigned by HR and give a unique ID to the job. Keep in mind human resources will work with you to confirm the final title. Section 2. Accountabilities. The accountabilities section is the most important part of the JD and is where all the duties and responsibilities of a position will be described. Accountability statement. The accountability statement is a clear and concise, high-level statement or two that, in approximately one paragraph, briefly summarizes and describes the position. This can be compared to an elevator pitch that provides the overarching summary for the role. Functional and technical. The functional technical section is considered the core of the job description and is where most of the time should be spent crafting the job description. This section is where you will describe in detail all the duties and responsibilities of your position using the tips from the previous learning. If the accountability statement was the elevator pitch, you can think of this section as a coffee chat where you have more time to go into specific details. As a starting point, you can target to have around 8 to 10 strong core duties. However, depending on the role's complexity, you may need to list more or fewer accountabilities to capture the role. Customer and stakeholder. The customer stakeholder section describes the position's various interactions with customers or key stakeholders. Stakeholders can be either internal or external facing. The goal of this section is to describe how the position will interact with individuals outside of your immediate team. Operational excellence. Operational excellence is essentially how we look at our business strategies and processes and review various ways to more effectively solve problems and enhance business processes. Financial stewardship. Financial stewardship speaks to the level of financial responsibility expected of the role. Note that not all positions will have direct financial responsibility, but may have more minor elements such as invoicing or tracking expenses. People leadership. People leadership describes the position's responsibility for leading and guiding others in the organization. This section speaks to how many other positions this role may lead or guide, but also indicates what level of leadership capability is expected of the role. Section 3. Requirements. The requirements section indicates what education, experience, or certifications and designations are needed for the position. My recommendation is to think about the minimum level of education and experience someone will need to achieve good results in the role. And if any certifications or designations are truly required for the role and could not be done without. Remember that a job description is not a job posting, and your ideal candidate may have more than the minimum requirements outlined. Section 4. Competencies and specialized skills. Are there any specialized competencies or technical skills that are required for the role? If there are, you may list them in this section. Section 5. Unusual working conditions. Most office-oriented jobs will have no unusual working conditions. However, if the position is required to do field visits or work in adverse work environments, like outside in all weather, please list them here. Job description writing process. Now that you have learned tips on how to write the job description and an overview of the various sections within the job description, you can now move on to the job description writing process. Prior to writing your job description, your HRBP will provide you guidance and, depending on your needs, may provide additional reference documents or tools to assist you. I recommend you focus most of your attention specifically on the accountability statement and the functional and technical sections. Here are some great pointers to help you along the way. Keep in mind that JD writing is an iterative process. It's normal to go through a few versions before we get to a final JD, and that spending the time to get the JD correct will help ensure you have a robust document for job evaluation and to help craft your job posting. The accountability statement or position summary should have the key theme of the job and should be reflective of the position in a precise manner. This was touched on in an earlier section. It's important to ensure the accountability statement reflects the position in a clear and concise manner. Many find it's easier to write the statement last after you have fleshed out the details of the job. List all the key duties under functional and technical sections. This section is the core of the JD. This is where you will describe the actual accountabilities in greater detail. This is where you want to articulate all the work the position will do for the team and where you can articulate all the benefits provided. Think about crafting the statements in terms of what is to be done, how and to what benefit or outcome. Action verb, by doing to achieve something. Develop specifications by gathering and interpreting clients' needs to ensure solutions, support and drive client satisfaction, KPI. It's also where the majority of time drafting the JD should be spent to ensure this section reflects the position's overall accountability and scope. Remember to reflect what the position does today, not what it will do in the future. If it's beneficial, organize duties into buckets of work. Use subheadings to clearly outline the duties and tasks. Sometimes roles have several clear buckets of accountabilities which can be grouped together. For instance, a manager of reporting may have analytics, KPI reporting, and information governance as core buckets. These buckets can be further expanded with the supporting duties. However, not all jobs will have buckets of work. Some roles by design may have many different related accountabilities, but are not closely related enough to be bucketed. For example, a customer service manager may have cleaning, maintenance, customer service, incident management, health and safety, etc. While these tasks are all related to customer service, they may not be easily grouped into buckets. However, this does not mean one position is larger than the other, rather their work is organized differently. I also wanted to note that if you are modifying an existing JD, always track your changes. There may be situations where you are updating an existing JD or reviewing a job description for a colleague. Although this is a simple tip, always remember to use the Track Changes function in Word to assist with version control and make it clear what is changing. JD Self-Quality Review. Now that you have crafted a JD, before we can submit to our HRBP for review, you should do an internal quality review. You can use the following questions to validate if you have captured your vision of the role. You can think of this quality review as if you provided your colleague the JD for their thoughts. Would they be able to read the JD and have come away with the same understanding of the role as you have? Would they be able to understand what the position is working to achieve? You can look back at your JD with the following self-reflection questions and if your JD accurately captures the level of complexity and problems and what is needed to solve them. How much autonomy or independence the role has in making decisions or taking action. The overall responsibility and authority the role has to accomplish goals. If the position makes sense when comparing to what the manager the role reports to is responsible for. Do the statements clearly outline the expected outcomes? Are all sections of the job description completed? Heading, title, business unit, etc. What is the role of my HRBP in JD development? After you have completed your JD draft, you may wish to have your people leader or colleague also review the JD to ensure it captures the role as you envision it, and to ensure that no important duties are missing. After you have reviewed, you can submit to your HR business partner, who will review and guide you through the next steps in the process. Your HRBP will review your drafted JD and may provide additional feedback or guidance to you. The HR business partner will conduct a quality check and ensure that all the sections of JD are completed, and if required, they will meet with you to understand and validate the JD duties and may ask probing questions to ensure duties are appropriately captured for job evaluation. They will review or request additional supporting documents like org charts, JD questionnaire, previous JD, business context, and rationale. If applicable, they will ensure all the questions in the JD questionnaire are answered. Once finalized, your HRBP will submit the job description to compensation to initiate a job evaluation which will determine a pay grade for the position. Compensation may have clarifying questions or require additional information to complete the job evaluation. If you have any questions or require assistance, please reach out to your HRBP for assistance. Conclusion. This concludes the end of Job Description Writing 101, Module 2. To recap, in Module 2 you have learned: what is a job description and what is it used for? Quick tips and tricks for writing a JD. Examples of what a good JD statement looks like. The JD writing process itself. What your HRBP will review with you after you submit your JD. I hope that you now have the confidence and skills to develop your job description. Thank you for your interest in Job Description Writing 101 Module 2.